You trust him to get a deal done with the union?
No, he doesn't really support workers' rights. Like, it was pretty evident through the pandemic, so yeah, I'm on the teacher side on this issue.
Do people actually trust Doug Ford to seal a deal with education workers?
Our government is willing to rescind the legislation. We're willing to rescind Section 33, but only if CUPE agrees to show a similar gesture of good faith by stopping their strike.
The Ford government has done a complete 180 when it comes to negotiating with CUPE, the union representing education workers. First, they failed to reach an agreement, pushing education workers to walk off the job in protest despite government legislation that said striking was illegal. But after all the unions banded together and with few options left, Doug Ford was willing to drop the controversial legislation and return back to the negotiating table. But only if CUPE workers agreed to end their strike. Fortunately, they agreed. But do people actually trust that Ford will find a solution that works for everyone?
I'm happy he pulled in reverse his decision, but I suspect Mr. Ford has got some other agendas.
Will education workers really receive the higher pay that they're asking for?
I am an education assistant. Some kind of deal will be done, but will it be fair? Probably not. Not what we deserve, because we do a lot of work.
Could we end up back with another strike? Hey, it's BG and thanks for watching. We're going to dive into the latest updates on education workers versus Doug Ford. But before I do, I need you to do a few things. Like, subscribe to this channel, tap the notification bell, hit the like button, and make sure to follow us across all of our social media. The details are in the description below. So, Doug Ford, he overplayed his hand. And it showed. Ford and his education minister, Stephen Lecce, thought it was okay to use Bill 28, a piece of legislation that basically strips away workers' democratic right to protest, as a way to force education workers back into school. Well, that didn't turn out well for them at all, and it blew up in Ford's face. And now, Doug Ford is trying to save face. Let's talk about the backlash towards Ford and Lecce. The backlash to how Doug Ford and Stephen Lecce handled negotiations with CUPE was swift. Taking away workers' right to protest with Bill 28 was seen as extremely undemocratic and outright mean.
Doug, you really took liberties to use a notwithstanding clause for education support workers that keep our schools and hallways clean, our washrooms clean. That was not right.
Here's the scene from the first day of protesting outside of Queen's Park on Friday.
Workers united will never be defeated.
If you look at past, we've only got 1%, not even 1%, 0.5% raise, and people still go out and put their best in and do their job.
Asking for $3 an hour is not unreasonable whatsoever. If there's anything that's unreasonable, is expecting to be able to live in this city with 2% that he's offering. That's the highest they've offered.
During the pandemic, they gave themselves a raise. And, we all love what we do. We all love working with kids, and, the caretakers, they enjoy doing what they're doing. So why can't, us that's looking after the generation that's coming up, why can't we get a raise as well?
What would you say to Doug Ford or Stephen Lecce if they were standing right here?
You, your policies, get life, and understand that the vast majority of Ontario is not as privileged as you are.
Ford's actions pushed education workers in CUPE to question the Ford government's relationship with working class people and those who simply want better working conditions and to be able to afford to live. You got slapped with that $4,000 fine. Would you pay that?
No, I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to go to court. We're going to go to court. Tell him to come out here and slap how much of us out here? 55,000 of us? Tell him to slap us with the fine. Tell him to come. Come.
You're ready?
Come. We're ready. Come.
And that gave momentum to striking workers and a supportive public. By the weekend, the head of CUPE was hinting at other unions joining the fight and potentially getting ready for a united strike.
We will build resistance. We will bring others to this resistance. We will keep going until the Ford Conservatives understand they must withdraw and repeal Bill 28.
It was clear the pressure was getting worse for Ford, and the public was not on his side. So by Monday, the backtracking began. Doug Ford's come to Jesus moment started with an olive branch to CUPE and education workers.
our government is willing to rescind the legislation. We're willing to rescind Section 33, but only if CUPE agrees to show a similar gesture of good faith by stopping their strike.
For CUPE, that was all they needed to declare the strike was over, and now they were back at the table, ready to negotiate with the Ford government.
I am so proud of CUPE's frontline education workers, 70% of whom are women, and that they stood firm. They went out on a political protest. They brought their message and their anger to more than 100 sites across this province. They took on the Ford government, and the government blinked. We've demonstrated the power of public sector and private sector solidarity, and we've shown that when our rights are under attack, our movement is strong and that we will stand up for each other.
But that olive branch from Doug Ford was a full 180 for a premier who, first off, didn't need to use this undemocratic legislation in the first place. Remember, the tone Ford and Lecce had last week was completely different, and there was no talk about working together. Instead, they were using a talk track that they were protecting students.
We will take action. We will send a clear message that children need to be in school, that the continuity of learning is paramount to their life, their productivity, their mental and physical health, as well as their academic success.
However, that talk track didn't land with most of the public. A poll by Abascus Data found 62% of respondents believe the Ford government bears the most responsibility for schools being closed. So, after it was clear that Ford and Lecce overstepped, they started singing a different tune on Tuesday.
I've heard CUPE say we need to invest more in lower income workers. I couldn't agree more. So today, we're back at the table.
So what's next for both sides? Well, there still has been no deal signed, but both sides are back at the bargaining table. Doug Ford says his government has committed to repealing Bill 28 on Monday, November 14th. In the meantime, the union can actually still go back on strike if talks break down again. But from the looks of it, it sounds like Doug Ford is now willing to offer up the money to finally get a contract signed.
And while I can't get into details, we're back at the table with an improved offer, particularly for the lower income workers.
However, Ford did caution that any agreement with the education workers will have an impact on teachers' contracts that are also in bargaining as well. But can Doug Ford actually seal this deal? CUPE originally sought an annual salary increase of 11.7%, which for the lowest paid education workers only works out to $3.25. But it's also clear that everything is back on the table and that this isn't the end of bargaining between education workers and the Ford government. What's also clear is that Canada's labor movement and CUPE's education workers in Ontario, they aren't backing down until they achieve a fair collective agreement with the wage increases that they believe they deserve. So here's my question for you. Do you trust Doug Ford to find a solution? What do you think needs to be done by the Ontario government to seal the deal? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Hey BG Squad, thanks so much for checking out our channel, and listen to this, we have more great content for you, like this video right here and this video right here. By the way, don't forget to subscribe to this channel right now and tap that notification bell.